Hey, you guys, you have your Northern Colorado notes ready, right? Oh no, I did North Dallas. You have Portland State. You have those ready?
Yes, I have Portland State
Portland
ready.
State scored 3 times today, so we all got to go.
Touchdown on the board. Of course, they missed the extra point, but hey, those 6 points after 10 quarters, just real great job by top 5 Portland State. Welcome back, Fightin Taters fans, to Tubs at the Club, brought to you by Snake River Stampede Whiskey. We are the Idaho Fightin Taters, affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Dallas Hammer, joined by brave, bold Brian Marceau.
Dude, you guys can tell by my voice how my day went. Good to be here.
And as always, well, maybe not always, but mostly always, the man in Moscow, producer redacted himself, Marten Heemstra. Marten, how you doing?
It's going good. It's a win. I mean, they won with the Fightin Taters, so the people that were mad can shut the fuck up now. They're back to normal now after this game. So, yeah.
Yeah, pretty spot on that, Marten. Again, guys, the clock will strike midnight here in a couple hours, and then it's back to Idaho Vandals. So anybody that was too upset about Fightin Taters, look, it's over now. For those that were not upset by it, man, it certainly seemed like that's how we got the student section to show up this year, because the alumni base certainly didn't. Just over 8,000 people in the game, but we're burying the lead here. Instant reaction, instant as in instantly, once Brian and I make it back from the travel and get the family situation sorted and can finally react to the Idaho Fightin Taters' first victory of the year. Gentlemen, Idaho wins 37-30 in a game that was probably a little bit closer than any of us wanted. Cameron Pope got the fireworks started with a 33-yard field goal to start the scoring 5 minutes remaining in the first quarter. Teams traded back and forth there for a little bit, and then Idaho took a 17-13 lead with 3 minutes left in the second after Joshua Wood found Jake Cox in the end zone Gotta love the Woodcocks connection, boys. After that point, Idaho certainly made it a little bit too close for comfort, but again, did go on to a 37-30 victory after not losing the lead again. 3 minutes left in the second quarter. Marten, what did you think went well tonight? We've got a bunch of things to go over. What went well tonight for the Vandals?
I think the big one for me is probably going to be, like, I saw more from the offense, saw a lot more downfield passing from Woods today. Joshua Woods. Sorry, I didn't want to make sure I get that right. That was the big one for me. Like, there was some, like, that's kind of like the big one for me. Just saw a lot more dimension from the offense, not just the rushing attack that we saw in the WSU game.
Yeah, Joshua Wood offensively won this game for Idaho. 368 total yards. He put that together, going 20-25 through the air for 281 yards, 3 touchdowns. Honestly, his first pass was an awful pick. He was essentially flawless after that. And then on the ground, Wood, again, like he was a leading rusher for Idaho two out of 2 times now. A total of 87 yards once you subtract the sacks. If you don't count the sacks, it was 5 rushes for 96 yards. Yeah, you heard that. 5 rushes for 96 yards. Wood, he was great hitting short to intermediate passes. He was great extending plays. I mean, he had the touchdown he had at the end of the game. That was the nail in the coffin to seal it. But look, he threw the ball the way that I saw on scrimmage and told people on the show, like, no, dude, this guy can pass. He's good. We didn't get to see it in the WSU game. Yeah, we saw that this game. Wood was, and I want to it's not just that he can run the ball. It's not just he was passing the ball great in -1 play. I honestly think Wood is pretty damn solid with his decision making as far as like when to tuck and run, when to throw the ball. I know, like, against WSU, one thing is we want him to go through his progressions better. Yeah, I think he went to the tape and did that this game against St. Thomas. So it's hard to overstate how good Joshua Wood was today. But if he's not Big Sky Player of the Week, fuck the Big Sky voting. Like that, he absolutely won this game for Idaho on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, couldn't agree more on that one, guys. Joshua Wood, what a coming out party. There was some doom and gloom on certain corners of the internet and the Only Tubs Discord about Joshua Wood's performance and maybe looking at a different quarterback. But here we are, week 2, and if you have an issue with the offense, I question what you were watching. Joshua Wood, again, with the arm punt on the first play of the game. Shocking decision there. It was almost like he had just decided who he was going to throw to before even attempting to read the field. The safety that ended up catching the ball essentially could have just fair caught it. Looked really bad. Awful way to start a football game. And then from there goes 20-24, 281 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like the guy dissected St. Thomas. Couldn't be more thrilled about that. The running game looked significantly better. Yes, Art Williams had 3.1 yards a carry, so it didn't explode into 7 yards a carry. But then when you look at Eli Cummings and Nate Thomas, who both averaged significant numbers, the running backs themselves had over 100 yards on the day. When you take out the LJ Harm minus 14 yards for the muffed punt on the unfortunately rough snap there from friend of the pod, Xander Eccles. He'll want to clean that one up, and I'm sure he probably feels pretty devastated about that one. But again, shit happens. It's week 2 of college football. But gentlemen, before we get too far into this is Around the Bar, brought to us by Hughes River Expeditions. If you are looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation, do not look past your backyard. Hughes River Expeditions has been Vandal-owned and operated since 1976, and they're ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the middle fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River of no return, the Salmon River Canyons, or even the Selway. And as always, you can check out special trips like one to see the Perseid meteor shower. If you were listening to us earlier this summer, you might have been able to go on one of those incredible trips and seen that meteor shower. Camp on pristine beaches or bitches, we don't judge. Run amazing whitewater, hike scenic trails, spot wildlife, soak in beautiful natural hot springs, and fish some of the most remote stretches of river in the entire United States. Just bring your clothes and HRE is going to handle everything else. Grab a paddle, catch dinner, and ride the bull all throughout the Gem State. Call them now, 406-540-4450, or check them out at hughesriver.com. Marten, There's going to be a lot of this is a loaded question. There's a lot of things we could talk about. What went poorly today?
I'm gonna take one that I'm sure one of you guys probably will take the other one. The one for me I'm gonna go with is penalties. There was they had a lot of stupid fucking penalties. I can't remember. I want to say it was the first half where they made a stop on 3rd and short or something, and then they get the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, gives them a 15 yards and a first down or whatever it was, and that leads to a score. That was the big one. That was, I think, there's multiple, but I think that's the one that stood out to me the most, was just they kept shooting themselves in the foot.
That was the Tommy's second drive that you're referring to there, Martin. 4 minutes and 16 seconds to go, 8 plays, 65 yards, helped by Idaho getting a unsportsmanlike penalty on a 3rd down that they stopped. And we saw that the St. Thomas kicker was not particularly good. Idaho stops him on 3rd down, unfortunately, unsportsmanlike. Reignites the drive. Tommy's kick it in, get into the end zone a couple plays later. Brian, what went wrong today?
I mean, you'd have to say the defensive side of the ball for Idaho was just wasn't what we saw against WSU. And there's a few things that you can point to, just some end results to keep in mind, especially if you were like me at the game, screaming your ass off, and you're not there, there's some things you miss where you need to look at a stat sheet at the end. Idaho forced a single punt. Idaho stuffed St. Thomas on one of 2 4th down conversions, and St. Thomas went 1 for 3 kicking field goals, which is to say Idaho did not stop St. Thomas. Now, St. Thomas stopped themselves on 2 missed field goals, but Idaho only really stopped St. Thomas a couple times. St. Thomas had a turnover too. My bad. So let's say Idaho stopped St. Thomas 3 times throughout the game. St. Thomas, total yards, they actually outgained Idaho by 5. So I mean, hey, that was close. But you're not going to tell me that Idaho did not have more talent than St. Thomas. What it looked like to me was, the way Idaho was just dialed in against WSU defensively. I think we had a little freelancing that, you could, if you watch Coach Dennison on the sidelines, you can tell when that dude's not happy. And that was essentially him throughout the game. But I think, I thought we had a less disciplined defensive effort. Martin's pointing out of the penalties. Is exhibit A here. But just Idaho wasn't, not to take anything away from St. Thomas. St. Thomas is a good football team that I expect is going to make the playoffs out of their conference. This is not the worst team Idaho is going to see this season. This is not the worst team Idaho is going to see in the month of September. So hey, please don't dismiss the fact that St. Thomas is a good, well-coached, disciplined football team. They took care of their end of the bargain to the extent they could. But Idaho was not disciplined enough defensively. And it wasn't just that, hey, against WSU is a secondary that was a little more suspect. That wasn't the case today. St. Thomas could move the ball through the air as well as on the ground. So I guess, Idaho, when they needed to, Idaho got the big stop they needed to at the end. So hey, it's not like everything was a catastrophe, but just make no mistake. This was not close to an apex effort for Idaho on the defensive side of the ball. Dallas, there's probably some more specifics there that you'll want to get into. But there's just no way to see a game where, hey, this was a 1-score game. This was final score, 1-score game, right, Dallas? Sorry, I just forgot the numbers. Yeah.
37-30. Yeah.
1-score game. And there's no way that Idaho's coaching staff is happy with just beating St. Thomas by 7, with having the game in doubt in the 4th quarter. Because truly it was a 6-point game in the 4th quarter before Joshua Wood had, put the nail in the coffin with that touchdown run. There's no way head coach Thomas Ford is like, well, thank God we beat St. Thomas by 7. This is exactly what we're going to be. So Dallas, I'll throw it back to you for more on it. But there's just no way to look at Idaho's defensive effort today and say that's the type of Vandal defense that's going to get us a 1st-round bye in the FCS playoffs.
Yeah. If you're the Vandals, you've got a bunch to clean up. Man, there are a couple guys on the defense that we will talk about having good games. But I think a lot of those guys on the defense are going to get their assholes reamed and ripped apart tomorrow, and probably throughout the rest of the week, knowing what we know about Court Dennison. Martin, you were spot on with the penalties. 13 penalties for 104 yards is ridiculous. That's significantly more than Idaho's passing yards last week. That's really, really brutal. For me, defensively, yes, Idaho struggled. Specifically, shouting out Crewhead 76 in the comments, their tight ends abused our secondary. They're again, we talked about it in the show last Thursday, that this was a team that was really going to focus on running the ball. They had some huge beef on the offensive line, and their tight end was all conference, and that he was likely to be the guy that they'd end up going to. The guy that led them in receiving yards in week 1 didn't get a catch this year, or didn't get a catch against the Vandals. Unfortunately, their tight end, Patrick Wagner, 6 receptions, 59 yards, and a touchdown. They did obviously get some guys out there. They had three passing touchdowns. Andy Peters was 21 for 29, 264 yards. But for me, man, there becomes a point in the game where it's no longer, okay, what are the coaches doing? Why is this guy open every single play? To, okay, the players are probably fucking around and freelancing. Favai was notorious for that. Yes, he was a great Vandal in his couple years here, but there were more than a handful of plays where somebody went open wide over the middle because he did his own thing rather than filling the gaps in the zones he was supposed to.
Can I throw one thing in here too, just to buttress your point? If you paid attention to Vandal media, like the interviews posted on the Idaho Athletics YouTube page, and especially when Court Dennison himself was interviewed, a point that was hammered time and time again by players and Coach Dennison himself was people sticking to their assignments. And my understanding here is going to be hey, they try to give lots of different looks, but when you have lots of different looks, you can't, everyone's got to be on the same page all the time. And the way you do that is you stick to your goddamn assignments.
Exactly. And that's the type of thing that gets cleaned up. So I'm not the sunshine and roses guy here, but I will say, I am not that worried about this team at the moment. There are a bunch of things that need to be cleaned up. But honestly, a lot of St. Thomas's, the reason that they were able to sustain drives in the first 2/3 of the game were because Andy Peters would get out of the pocket and scramble. The guy ended up with 79 net yards. He ended up with significantly more than that, but then took a couple sacks. Shout out to Matthias McLean for getting those in there. Again, running quarterback, we just saw what happens when Joshua Wood has the chance to run and throw and do it effectively. He looks like he might be the best quarterback in the conference. Could end up, certainly on the short list of offensive player of the year after 2 weeks, his first game against an FCS squad. The guy looks like the truth. But I think a lot of this can get cleaned up. There's certainly reason to be concerned. Line of fire 9,500 plus yards in penalties is almost always a loss. So we got that going for us, which is nice. Crewhead 76, pass rush wasn't great. Again, there's a lot of things that Idaho can fix here. But guys, this is a very good program. Yes, they're in their infancy in the FCS, but Glenn Caruso has been the coach there for 18 years. I don't remember what the win-loss record we pulled up was, and the win-loss record, even just in FCS as they've moved up from D3 to D1. This is a good program. Should Idaho have probably beat them a lot more than they did? Yes, and I think that the coaching staff is really going to harp on that. But guys, we're 18 minutes in. We're going to get to player of the game in just a second. But first, I want to point out this Fightin Taters shirt I am currently wearing today. Brian and I were some of the few adults wearing Fightin Taters gear that you can get from vandalgear.com. They are currently the nicest and softest and most comfortable Vandal shirt I have ever had. It was unfortunate being in the dome today where it was 92 degrees and there was no airflow. And again, as not me mentioned in the YouTube comments, this show is also sponsored by Degree for Men because it was gross in there. But when the dome is not killing you with heat, man, this is my absolute favorite shirt. Martin Heemster in the comment section saying, take it off, Dallas, wave it around. Unfortunately, I think for the people that are going to see that are much more interested in seeing, right now you can get Fightin Taters gear from vandalgear.com as t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, you name it. They've pretty much got it. They got a bunch of other stuff in there too. But if you're looking for that Fightin Taters merch, they've got it. Shout out to Pacific Custom Sportswear, Vandal owned and operated for 25 years. They got a bunch of Vandal gear. Again, guys, vandalgear.com. You can be one of the first people to rep the Fightin Taters.
Home Field is selling Fightin Taters shirts for $46. Vandal gear, Pacific Custom Sportswear, they're selling them for 22, and they're high quality, dude. Like they're not skimping on anything. I don't know why the fuck you'd order them from Home Field. Go get them from Pacific Custom Sportswear.
You know, I will say Home Field's got the Joe boxing inside he's in the potato suit. Unfortunately, don't have that on vandalgear.com, but everything else you could possibly want, you're going to get it there. It's going to be a lot cheaper. It's going to be a lot nicer quality. In the comment section, not me saying, oh God, no, please leave it on. I did leave it on. Colberry Ochoa, did you feel like a baked potato, Dallas? Yes, 100%. We were all baked potatoes today. Gentlemen, we are halfway through this show, and we still got a bunch to hit on. Marten, your player of the game. You can give me offense, you can give me defense, you can give me both, whatever you're feeling. I call this the Marten wildcard segment. So just give me what you're feeling, man.
I'm gonna go. I want to go the obvious with Joshua Woods, but the former player.
You mean Joshua Wood, right? There's only one Wood in Joshua.
Wood. This is
We
what I
need a
get
mute
for
button for
fucking
Marten
being on the
now.
show. Yeah. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go former player in the offensive line just because they got 200 yards rushing, and yeah.
I mean, that's more than fair. Joshua Wood took 2 sacks, and certainly those guys are going to want to clean up things more and be able to say, hey, yeah, we'd love to have helped Art spring a couple carries, but honestly, picking the offensive line in a game where the Vandals had 400 plus yards of offense, pretty good choice there, in my opinion. Brian,
Yeah, don't overthink this. Joshua Wood was the player of the game. I already hit the stats. Going 20 for 25. One of those was a pick. One was a batted down pass. Otherwise, he was near flawless after that first play, and just absolutely carried Idaho offensively for a huge amount of the game. But I do want to bring up in the WSU game, he was targeting Gabe Hoffman a ton. This game, Wood spread the ball around pretty damn well. I mean, you look at one downside. Emerson Cortez Menjivar went down early. He had 5 catches pretty fast before he went down with what looks like a shoulder injury and then was gone for the game.
They wrapped him up, threw pads back on him. He tried to go back out there and then eventually missed the second half.
Yeah, ECM 5 catches, 78 yards. But then additionally, Tony Harsty and Ryan Cesario, both of those guys, Harsty had 5 catches, Cesario had 6 catches. No one topped 100 yards, but we had 3 guys with 78 yards or more. And the reason I'm bringing that up is one of the groups that we knew might take a minute to kind of evolve here was the receiving room, where Coach Ford had been open. He'd said, like, hey, there's no dude who looks like they're just slamming as the number 1 option. There's a lot of guys who look like they're pretty good number 2 or 3 options, but we're going to see who takes over. I don't know if anyone's necessarily going to take over, but if Wood can spread the ball around like he did today, it doesn't really matter. But we did see a few guys contribute in the receiving room who need to assert themselves, and that's what happened.
Yeah, unfortunately, Michael Graves, in the traditional fashion, was unable to suit up today. Really wish that guy was able to stay healthy. One of the biggest what ifs in Vandal history to me. When you see him on the field, he separates better than just about any receiver that's ever put on a Vandal uniform. The guy, unfortunately, just cannot stay healthy. So again, the Harsty, Cesario, and I think I might have got that name wrong, and Cortez Menjivar, like that's a really good group of receivers right there. Looked really good, and then unfortunately, again, the ECM goes down. Nolan McWilliams got a couple snaps in there, got a couple catches, but for me, offensively, it's got to be Joshua Wood. Again, shout out to the receivers that did. Again, Harsty 5 for 92 and a touchdown. Cesario 6 for 83 and a touchdown. And Ryan Cesario, I am sorry, I don't know if that's how to pronounce your name. I heard it over the PA, and I'm gonna guess it's probably not right. I will look that up at some point and hopefully not screw it up anymore. Defensively, guys, this is a really tough one for me. You can point out guys like, Dylan Lane had a bunch of tackles. Isaiah King looked like a difference maker, did have a half a sack, had a forced fumble. Hayden John had a bunch of tackles. But again, when you also saw, and the Vandals certainly let that ball get through the air, the pass rush didn't succeed all the time. I got to circle it back to Matthias McLean, because when it mattered most, that dude came through 3 tackles for loss, sack and a half. didn't get any sacks onto Peters until the end of the game. For me, the pass rush finally got home when it mattered most. Yes, I would really love to see McLean and Parham explode faster and earlier on in games. Parham was getting double teamed on most snaps. Crew had 76 in the comments. Defense gets a D+. I would unfortunately agree with that. First week, obviously, defense was outstanding. It was the offense that just couldn't get it quite enough to pull off that win. And then here, the offense kind of carried the defense in quite a handful of times. Again, some of that is stuff like the penalties, just shooting yourself in the head over and over when you've gotten yourself off the field, or essentially gotten yourself off the field and completely blow it by giving them 15 free yards. With that said, man, I got to go McLean. There were a handful of guys that had decent performances, but all in all, if I'm on the Vandal defense, I am a little bit afraid for what practice is going to be first time Dennison gets his hands on you, because that dude's going to be a little fiery about this. Brian, I've been talking a lot. You want to tell the people what we have been sipping on to celebrate Thomas Ford Jr.'s first ever Vandal victory, or technically the first ever Fightin Taters victory?
Absolutely. Before I go on the record saying it's Ryan Jesiaro is the name we're all struggling with.
Jesiaro,
so, yeah. So, hey, obviously having some Snake River Stampede Canadian whiskey, you got two options. Either the entry level is the Stampede triple barrel, 3-grain whiskey, 80% corn, 10% rye, 10% malted barley, double barrel finish, first fill bourbon, then finished for 6 months in Oloroso sherry casks. If you're celebrating a big win, which, hey, I'm on the fence calling this a win to celebrate as like pulling out the small batch, because it was big to get the win. But hey, obviously, like we've hit some notes you can hear about. But some things to pay attention to for the Snake River Stampede 1915 small batch. It's still 3-grain whiskey. It's got a double barrel finish process too. It's first fill bourbon, then finished in ex-Canadian rye whiskey casks. Either way, you can't go wrong. Both of them are fantastic whiskeys. They're also great economic buys in the whiskey world. About $25 for the Stampede, about $38 for the 1915. Whatever you want, just go to your local state of Idaho liquor store and grab yourself a Snake River today.
As always, thank you, Snake River Stampede Whiskey, for sponsoring the show. Gentlemen, as we circle the drain here on this episode, any final points, Marten, that we haven't made that you wanted to get across tonight?
I got nothing. Mine stuff's just going to be nitpicking of certain stuff, just small stuff, but stuff that we've already beaten like a dead horse before on this show.
The first one for me is, hey, patreon.com/Tubs at the Club, because again, if the best place to be with Idaho football obviously is in the Dome, but if you can't be there, or you're in the Dome and you're next to a bunch of people who won't stand up, our Discord was slamming the entire time. Dallas made reference to it. Yeah, dude, there's some emotional up and down, of course, in any sort of like instant reaction thread, but like it's the best place to talk Idaho sports online. I'm not even going to acknowledge second exists, because why the fuck would you go to like the 15th level when you have the best thing here? Costs less than a cup of coffee to support the show, and join patreon.com/Tubs at the Club. So the thing that I would say here, other than that orange cat in the background was highlighted the show, Dallas, is
hashtag free Gary. Shout out Taylor Cash.
I think there's going to be some natural ups and downs through this season. One, this is just fucking college football now, guys. Like when the rosters turn over, teams, if you don't have innate stability, it's going to take a minute. And Idaho has a new first year OC. Thomas Ford's not a first year coach, but this is his first D1 job. And hey, Court Dennison, he has been a DC before, but it's been a minute since he's been a DC. So like, hey, there's probably a learning curve. Ford's been here for 1 year. So as far as like getting what you want your culture to be established, I mean, like it takes a second. So, there's going to be some ups and downs this year for sure. My big takeaway from this game is obviously Idaho's not a finished product. There's going to be some ups and downs. The downs this time was defensively. Which is actually, like we've talked, we are everything we've heard about Court Dennison we like. We're confident some of this stuff's going to get fixed. I feel like this seemed like your classic, hey, the team, and I'm going to say the defense here specifically, was a little overconfident based off last week. And I expect that's going to correct and stabilize, because there's no way the coaches saw this effort today and were like, oh yeah, it's awesome. I think that what we saw against WSU, I do believe we're going to see more of that. I would not be shocked if this is actually like the worst you see Idaho's defense the entire year. And that's a learning curve. There's a lot of new guys, a lot of younger guys in new roles. You kick ass against WSU, you can feel like you kick ass against the upper echelon team, relatively speaking. You can feel like you own like you essentially have this thing down. And it was good for the defense, for Idaho's defense, to learn, no, you got to do your job. You got to stay in your lane, bail on the freelancing. But they did it without picking up an L. To me, that's one big takeaway. The second is offensively, this is going to be a team that can score some points. The running back room does look a little bit dinged up, but 2 weeks in a row, offensive line, again, not the problem at all for Idaho. The Idaho O-line, this is the best O-line we've seen in a long, long time. So I got to say, like, I feel more confident about the growth we saw offensively enough that I'm not really concerned in that room whatsoever now. I mean, we saw Joshua Wood take huge steps as a passer, and we're seeing the receiver room's going to take a second, but 2 weeks in a row, offensive line for Idaho looks like they came ready to play and ready to what Nate as a party talked about when I interviewed him at Media Day was, hey, like, people have understood the Idaho O-line is kind of the weak link the last few years, and I don't think that's the case. That's not going to be the case this year. From the 2 weeks we've seen, he's 100% right. No, Idaho's O-line looks like they're holding up their end of the deal. No matter what we bring up, as far as Idaho not doing that as well as they should have defensively and not stopping St. Thomas enough, yeah, Idaho still led the entire game. So Idaho offensively, Ford said he thought they'd be more explosive than last year. I think the jury's in. I think they're going to be. And that's even with some guys not being completely healthy.
I mean, Brian, the explosives can be measured in so many different ways, but each of the receivers had a long of 37, 42, and 43, and then you obviously had Wood break off the monster run to seal it, 59 yards. Unfortunately, would have loved a 10-yard penalty on the play before that, but beggars can't be choosers. This is a 69 joke for those who might be Broncos listening to this and not be able to do math. Anyways, special teams was a bit of an issue again. Some just, I don't know, fuck shittery, I guess is the best way to say it. The delay of game was unfortunate. That then caused that punt had been great, got it down inside the 10, and then instead delay a game. You got to re-kick. The officials moved the ball back and then forth and then back again when they finally decided how long the penalty was actually going to be. And I don't know, whoever took off their gloves to be able to count the yards or whatever they were trying to do. And then Harm takes that shot because the snap doesn't quite get to him. Lose 14 yards, give them incredible field position. Like, there are some sloppy, ugly mistakes that need to be cleaned up by this football team. And I really want to focus on that because that was the one thing we all hoped was Thomas Ford's going to come back and special teams are just going to fix themselves. That is not the case. This is going to be a week in, week out process of continuing to have to grind that back to where it was when Ford was here in his first stint. Really hope that gets cleaned up before it costs the Vandals any games. Yes, you can make the argument that Idaho's mistakes cost them against Wazoo, but again, it's an FBS game. Like, realistically, you're not expected to win that. You don't win it. It doesn't really do much for your season. I don't want to see Idaho lose a game in the Big Sky because of special teams mishaps. But Joshua Wood, for me, was a revelation. Again, 5 incompletions, one of which was the arm punt on the first play that was, Marten and I have talked about this. When you use one of those broken plays you just love in the new college football game and you think, man, I want to chuck a touchdown here, and you make the decision before you've even gone to it, and the ball's in the air before you realize, oh shit, that was cover 4. There's no space back there. Picked off. It was very much one of those type of plays. Outside of that, 4 incompletions, and at least 3 of them were because he made the right decision. He just made it too late. I'm not saying the guy's going to go out and pitch a perfect game here, but I felt so relieved with seeing that guy throw the ball around Joshua Wood is going to be a very good quarterback here, hopefully for multiple years. And we'll see what happens in the years of NIL. But man, Idaho got the win. Yes, it was ugly. It was sloppy. There were so many chances for Idaho to just absolutely blow the Tommies out of the dome completely. Did not happen. Continued to shoot themselves in the foot. Continued to get the penalties. Continued to make missteps on special teams. And Idaho still got the win. And I don't remember who it was. I think it might have been Max Antouche in the comment section. The comments are flying tonight, guys. This is a pretty popular one on YouTube tonight. Somebody pointed out, like, seen worse Vandal victories against worse teams than that. Like, St. Thomas was a good team. They don't have scholarships. They're going to be a top-end Pioneer League team. Man, their offensive line was beef. Like, their linemen were bigger than ours. And I think that just comes from being in BF nowhere, Minnesota.
I want to contextualize this differently, Dallas. Hey, if St. Thomas is playing Idaho State, who are you picking?
Yeah, St. Thomas every day of the week. Every single day of the week. And I would be picking them over probably half of the big guy at this point.
I understood St. Thomas. They looked like they wouldn't be a top half of the Big Sky team, but they would be probably the top of the bottom third. Like, I would pick St. Thomas over Idaho State. I have to really think about, but I'd probably take St. Thomas over them. And I'd certainly take St. Thomas over like Northern Colorado, Cal Poly, top 5 Portland State. But hey, that's a third of the conference that I just said St. Thomas would be a team to brain dead pick for. Like, I know they're Pioneer League, but like that's a good Pioneer League team. Like that's like the one Pioneer League team in the history of the conference that, like, if a 7-5 Big Sky team is taking on St. Thomas in round 1 of the playoffs, I got to think about who I'm picking there.
Yeah, for sure. Gentlemen, we are over the 30-minute mark, over the 35-minute mark. I've already asked you this once. Any final thoughts before we seal up the first victory of the Thomas Ford era?
I'll just say this, kind of plug that I know a lot of people are going to want to talk about attendance and stuff, but come out to the game. They're fun. It's actually it's a lot of fun this year. It's not just 1 or 2 beer stands. They actually sell it at the concession stand this year. It's a lot better this year.
Yeah, great call out there, Martin. They are doing again. There's so much more investment in this program. Obviously, from a social media standpoint, you can see it every day. But even just the game day experience, there is investment in here. Bringing back the Vandal Walk, trying to do some of the old tradition-y stuff that has been kind of lost in the last handful of the wandering decades of FBS. But like you said, there's beer lines at every concession stand. It is so much easier to just continue having a better time at the Kibbie Dome every single time it happens. 8,000 people in the dome today, not great. The student section, for the most part, was very loud. Really helped, give the dome that home field energy.
If you're a student, sorry to jump in, Dallas, but if you're a student, don't throw shit on the fucking field like you guys did the day that they had to call it out on the PA system.
Yeah, I mean, I expect that's not going to happen again. But I will. Yeah, the students held up their end of the bargain. I'm fine talking about attendance for a minute because I think there's a couple things to look at. One, just to be realistic, Idaho usually attendance wise underperforms in the out of conference. That was persistent during Jason X time, where that isn't to say there weren't some good environments, but the great environments were always during Big Sky conference season. There's a lot of different ways to interpret that. One way is to say, like, Idaho's only been good for 3 years and they sucked for a long time. So it takes a minute to, like, culturally have Idaho football be something that, the people in Coeur d'Alene, the people in Spokane, the people in Lewiston are driving up for, because those are the people we need to be there more persistently. The Boise alums do a lot, and I just don't feel comfortable bitching about Boise alums when they're paying $300 a night for a hotel, plus they have to drive like 6 hours there and back. The Boise alums are going to show up the way they can, and usually they do hold up their end of the bargain. It's the area around Moscow where we need more people there, and I guess the other thing that this is kind of the narrative version I understand of attendance for Idaho is essentially Idaho has to prove year in and year out that they're good. And they prove that usually during the out of conference. If homecoming's earlier in the conference season, usually I think that portends positively for Idaho because you get a big crowd for a win, then more people are going to want to come back. So, I mean, that's what I'm hoping. But I will say, I think the messaging of like, hey, the whole Fightin Taters thing, making it into an online meme, you will never, ever convince me that did not help get the student section out today. Like that was an unequivocal win in terms of attention. And I think materially, that was an unequivocal win in getting students there. Students were the ones who carried that stadium today. Really hope the alums can get back in. Look, I'm going to bitch for a second about alums. I don't fucking get it. Like this has been a good team for 3 years. We're on our 4th year of being good. I think Thomas Ford and the admin staff we talked about are doing a good job connecting with the community. I want more people to show up there, but I know I'm going to be there each week. You can hear I sound like shit because I yell the entire goddamn game because that's just who we are. I expect it's going to get a little bit better each week.
And hopefully that just continues. If you're listening to this show, if you're watching the show, you're probably a diehard. You're probably somebody that gives, more of your heart than you should to Vandal football, just like the 3 of us do. Guys, we are right now, we are currently in the 3rd greatest era of Vandal football history. I mean, it could end up being in the 2nd or 1st, but objectively, we are in a top 3 era of Vandal history since 1900, the first fucking Vandal team. Like, I understand it's hard to give up a summer day, a quote unquote summer day. I don't know if I'd call a smoky day that today was a summer day, but I understand it's hard to give up a summer day, especially when it's St. Thomas, a former D3 school from Minnesota, coming to the Kibbe Dome. I understand that doesn't put asses in seats the way that a Nevada would have, or I don't know, Louisiana Tech or some of the old whack schools that would maybe be coming in if Idaho was in the FBS or I don't know, something other than a D3 school 5 years ago. But we're in the good days here, guys. If you have Vandal fans and Vandal family that should be coming out to these games, this is the time to start telling them, look, this is it. These are the good days. We don't know how much longer we're going to get this. Yes, Thomas Ford, the jury is still out because it's, again, 2 games into his Vandal career. But the Jason Ekiers were good. This team is good. This team should make the playoffs.
Yeah.
We're not going to see Erickson to Tormey being all of those guys winning 600 to 700% of the games. Their batting average would be 600, 700. We're not going to see that again. But right now we are seeing it. Don't take it for granted when maybe the guy after Ford is not the guy and things slip. This is a good football team. Get to the Dome and support it.
The other thing I want to say before we head out is I always like to gauge my temperature on Idaho. And look, obviously this at the literal level, a repeat of this effort is going to pick up Idaho some losses against better teams. But the overall takeaway I would encourage people to look at here is, one, we know they can play better defensively. We saw it a week ago. But two, it's normal. Like, there's normal variability in performance. Like, that's just how things go. Look, Montana barely separated from Central Washington until the very end. Northern Colorado should have beaten Colorado State this week. So for Idaho to have as much go wrong as did go wrong, penalties, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and still lead the entire game pretty much and come away with a win, sometimes you just have to say, look, I wish it was prettier. It's going to be prettier in the future, but we got the win. We salvaged what we need to. And Idaho's still going to be top 10 in the polls because they deserve to be. And we got, look, Utah Tech next week. They're looking frisky, competitive against 2 Big Sky teams. Obviously, Idaho's got to play better, fix some things up. But hey, maybe this is actually good news that Idaho is going to have to confront that just showing up is not enough. But look, we still picked up the win. The catastrophe was avoided. We got the W. Idaho fixes some things next week. Everyone forgets about the things we're frustrated about this week. So I think that's going to happen. Like, Dallas, you and I have been on the same page here for a little bit talking Idaho. I'm really, really high on this team. I'm a little baffled at a couple things that I think they're going to clean up pretty quick, but I don't know how to watch these two games, see an awesome defense week 1, a kick-ass offense week 2, and not say, if they can get those kind of in sync, they're going to beat the shit out of a lot of teams.
And again, we're 2 games into the career of Thomas Ford. Montana went to the national championship game 2 years ago after not deciding on their quarterback until midway through the season, like they do historically every goddamn year, and then still go pay for a playoff game and win it and move on to the second round. I'm not saying Idaho is going to be a second round team right this second, but guys, like it's normal to have these variances. But as Crewhead 76 says, ups and downs are expected. The penalties are what get me fired up. And again, that is a huge problem. And those are certainly problems to be able to say, yeah, hey, that is going to cause some real issues in future games, especially against stronger opponents that do have scholarship depth. Not FBS depth, but normal FCS depth is going to be more than what St. Thomas currently had. With all of that to say, guys, I'm still feeling pretty good about this team. I still think this team has a very high ceiling. There's a lot of things that need to get corrected, but again, it's week 2. You're 1-1. The players are probably going to get ripped in half this week for some of the missteps that happened, and you just hope that next game in the Dome again, it's not a redo of this week, but you have another team coming in that is a lower team than you are. This is the time to come out next week and show, hey, look. Yeah, we fucked up taking this for granted that we were playing a Pioneer League school. We're going to come out and kick Utah Tech's teeth in. That's certainly on the table. It's also on the table that, hey, 100 yards of penalties later, Utah Tech makes this a 1-score game, and we all feel not so great after that one. But it's early. You got the victory here. Have a lot of things positively to take away, a lot of things to clean up, but what team doesn't have things to clean up after week 2? Crewhead 76 in the comments. Final comment. Dare I say Wood can take us further than Lane? That is the hardest of hard takes, Crewhead, but I would probably agree with you right this second.
Oh no, Joshua Wood is for this team. No, that I absolutely would. Nothing against Jack Lane and the time he was here at Idaho. Full disclosure, when guys move on from Idaho, I just kind of stopped paying attention. But for what Lane did when he was here, he was awesome. Joshua Wood, I think, for this team is an upgrade. His ability, his durability, the way he can make plays with his legs. He is growing as a passer. This was Joshua Wood's 3rd start as a collegiate quarterback, and he was damn near flawless after one very, very bad pick start of the game. But after that first pass, that guy was playing at an All-American level. So no, I would have no problem co-signing. That's the Joshua Wood sign coming to Idaho exploded the ceiling of what this team can be.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, we are almost 50 minutes into this instant reaction show that we internally told ourselves we were going to keep to 30 to 35 minutes, maybe 40 with the ad reads, and we have blown past that. I'm going to let you guys get your nights back. Listeners, thank you for joining in, especially those live viewers. Our live viewership for this was, I think, the highest we've ever had for an instant reaction show. We will be back next Thursday to preview Utah State versus the Idaho Vandals.
Whoa. Utah Tech, formerly Dixie State.
Thank you.
Like Kevin said, man, Dixie's in your heart.
Except Utah, where it's the only real heart there that was Dixie was probably racism. There's not a whole lot of Dixie in Utah. But I digress. Not a big Utah guy. Grew up in Southern Idaho. Not a big fan of Utah. Anyways, gentlemen, it's late.
Dixie.
I'm punch drunk.
Soak it all in.
I think you guys might be actually drunk. I don't know. I hope. Maybe I'm projecting. Anyways, we'll be back next week with another episode of Tubs of the Club. Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.